Thank you for joining us after hours. I appreciate you taking time to take a look at our webinar tonight. We're going to be talking about how Swift Sensors can help you improve your facility operations, specifically the smart way to do things. Again, my name is Jason Duncan. I handle our sales and support out of Swift Sensors. And Chris Carson from our marketing team is going to be helping me as well on the administration side. Chris is going to be fielding questions via the chat. So if you have questions, if you wouldn't mind typing those into the chat, and Hugh will present those at the end. This presentation should take approximately 30 minutes start to end. I'll try to keep this as tight as I can so that we don't waste time. I know it's after hours and I want to be respectful of your time. So let's just go ahead and get started here. First things first is the agenda. We're going to talk first about wireless sensors, just an overview, sort of a 101. Then we're going to talk about how to go about setting up a system of wireless sensors. Then the meat of the presentation will be around the facility improvements that can be made with sensors. And then we'll talk a little bit about system selection if you're looking to get into a system, and then the Q&A. So let's talk about wireless sensors 101. So this will be just a quick overview, a refresher for a lot of you, and maybe something new for a few. So what are wireless sensors? Basically, a wireless sensor is just a small device that you're going to attach to a piece of equipment or place in your environment so that you can take some measurements, get some information, detect readings, and then transmit those results up to the cloud for processing, and then most likely a notification of some sort or just history tracking. So they're just basically small devices that can take readings off of machines, equipment, or environments. Keep in mind, there's a lot of different types of sensors out there. There's temperature, humidity, vibration, door contact, and a lot of others. The primary sensors that we sell are typically in the temperature, humidity, vibration, and door contact realm, but there's a lot of interest and a lot of variety out there and needs in these other areas as well. So just wanted to touch on the different types of sensors that are available. We just launched our Series 3 line, and I'll talk a little bit about our Series 3 product line throughout this presentation, but we did just launch with 12 new sensors. You can see here that a lot of them focus around temperature and vibration, door access, tilt if something's swaying one way or the other, as well as activity, and then we have a 4 to 20 milliamp and voltage sensor. Overall, we have over 30 different sensors available, but these are sort of our bread and butter here with our Series 3 sensors. If you were to look inside one of these sensors, you'd see a few components inside. The first is going to be basically just the sensor that takes the measurement reading, whether that be temperature, vibration, voltage, what have you. There's going to be just a small sensor inside. In addition to that, you're going to have your radio and processor on a little board, and that's what's going to be transmitting the information off of the sensor, as well as gathering information from outside sources. Of course, there's also, as you'll notice in this picture, a lot of the sensors taken up by the power source are batteries. So the batteries do consume a lot of space in these sensors. Of course, we do offer DC and AC powered sensors for more industrial use, but typically our sensors are going to come battery powered with a 6 to 8 year lithium battery. The goal of these wireless sensors is basically just to monitor your equipment in your environment so that you can tell what's going on 24/7, right? And if there is a problem, you need to know about it and track the results for audit as well as some compliance record keeping. All right, so let's move on to system setup. So let's just say you want to get started with sensors and you want to go and set up a system. Basically, there's just three parts to this, right? There's going to be the sensor that's going to collect the measurement readings. You've got your gateway that's going to gather up the sensor reads and transmit that to the cloud. And then you got your cloud software. The sensor itself, like I mentioned earlier, is very small, and it's just attached to equipment. So you can take this and you can apply it to, you stick it onto the side of a rotating pump, a compressor. You can put it in a lobby of a hotel or building so you can manage the ambient temperature. You can set it up so that it manages the temperature inside of a walk-in cooler. There's a lot of different ways to deploy these sensors so that it can take measurement readings in your environment or on your equipment. The average price is somewhere around $150 for our sensors. They go as low as $99, and they do have a monitoring and alert service fee that comes with it so that you can get your notifications and all of your history as well. Now keep in mind that the sensor is the wireless part of it, so it's going to be communicating through BLE technology and sometimes RF. It's the readings that it can collects up to a gateway, which I'll talk about in just a minute. The range of the sensor is approximately 150 feet from the gateway, so you've got some liberty there to move these sensors around, and that information is transmitted in an encrypted fashion. I'll talk a little bit about the gateway device. The gateway device, as I mentioned, is the device that collects the measurement readings and then transmits that up to the cloud for processing. Okay, this gateway can be connected locally to a local Ethernet, meaning just from a local computer network cable out of the wall. It can also be connected to a local Wi-Fi source, or in some cases, like for very remote locations or data centers, you might want to use our cell option, which allows you to run completely independent of any local network and run completely outside of that. Sometimes that can be an issue too, if there's some secure data center, or if there's an IT department that doesn't want any network traffic. These gateways can also be powered via AC or by power over Ethernet if you have such a network. These, the price of these gateways is $300 or $299. Excuse me, it's $199, excuse me. The gateway itself is going to collect the information from the sensors. It's not just from a one-to-one relationship. The gateway can communicate with multiple sensors, and in our case, it's up to 150 different sensors can be supported by a single gateway. So just to kind of map this out a little bit more, as you set these up in your environment, the setup's going to look something like this. You'll have your sensors communicating with your gateway. Your gateway will be plugged into some sort of network that allows you to connect and transmit that information to your cloud account. Usually at this point, there's some questions that come up. People want some answers. And so why don't I just stop for just a second and address a few of these common ones that come up at this point. The gateway can support up to 150 sensors. The sensor range is about 150 to 300 feet. That range can be impacted by the infrastructure of your environment. If there's really thick concrete walls or elevator shafts, sometimes that can reduce the range. And of course, the power on the sensors is 6 to 8 years by battery, or if it's direct, it's obviously limitless. And then of course, the warranty on our sensors is 1 year. I'd like to talk a little bit about the cloud software here, just as far as part of the setup, because the setup of your cloud software is going to be really important to the success of your program. And so you've got your sensors communicating the gateway to the cloud. And once you have everything up to the cloud, in this case, you can access that information and basically get information from the cloud about your environment in a nice user interface. So I'll talk a little about the software here, and there's several different components to it, right? You've got your dashboards, which we're kind of looking at here as a default dashboard when you come into the system. You've got your measurements, thresholds, and then notifications, right? So what this allows you to do is just in one place view all your information. And essentially, you just log into your account. You can log in right from our responsive app on your phone. You can log in from your desktop, or basically any device that's got an internet connection, such as an iPad. And once you log in, you're going to see a dashboard of your information across one or more of your locations, however you decide to present that data. So you can configure your dashboard to be a set, or either all of your data or some smaller set of your data, so that you can see what's happening in your environment. And in this case, you can see that we've set up some composite combo charts of multiple readings across different sensors so that we can see quickly what's happening. Here's another dashboard, an example that shows not only just the readings, but also some breakout overall of the sort of system status, as well as the compliance settings for a particular oven that we're tracking, as well as the utilization. So this will come up a little bit later in our presentation about how sensors can be used to extrapolate information about your system and your operations, so that you have some really good intelligence about what's happening with your machines and such. Now the measurements right here I wanted to share with you are, are basically the raw data that's collected by the sensors, right? So this is basically a quick snapshot of what and how our system looks, what our system does and how it looks, and that we collect the data, the measurement readings. This is for a cooler, so you can see our temperatures. And you can also look at the time range. This could be for the last hour, the last 15 minutes, the last week, the last year, whatever you select. But it just allows you to take a look historically about what's happening or what has happened with this particular cooler or your particular equipment. Now, the way these things get color coded is really interesting because that's our next discussion point, which is our threshold. So we can set ranges here to alert us when things are going out of range visually. So if something's yellow, we know that it's a high warning or a low warning. If something's in the red, we know that we've got a high critical or low critical. Now, when we look at this particular part of our equation, part of our setup and user interface, we consider the high warnings and low warnings to be our predictive thresholds, right? So if something's starting to get a little bit high, that's a predictive alert, right? If it goes higher than that and gets into the critical stage, that's more of a reactive alert or reactive situation. And in those situations, when you're into a reactive or even predictive, you want to send a notification about it, right? So if something starts to creep out of control, you want to really know about that. So we can send notifications to a number of different people based on a number of different measurements based on the different thresholds we've set. So there's a lot of different things that we can do here to send out important notifications about issues with equipment. One of the key features to our notifications is that we can set a delay in our notification. So this is sort of our false alert logic. And so imagine that you have a refrigerator at your house and you want to check the temperature on it so that temperature stays at around 38 degrees, say. And if that temperature goes above 38 degrees, you want to get an alert about it. So say it goes to 40 degrees. Well, every time the door opens and closes on your refrigerator, that temperature may spike to 40 degrees. You certainly don't want to get a lot of alerts that are false alerts because you probably don't really care if it just spikes for a minute or two. But if your refrigerator goes, above 45 degrees for 30 minutes or so, that's a bigger problem, right? So we can set in here a delay so that we don't get false alerts. So this is a really critical part of our application is how we control the flow of your notifications to you. And of course, there's a little bit more logic that we can add to it. We do also offer composite notifications, which is the combination of one or more thresholds. So for example, if your doors open on your refrigerator and the temperature's above a certain temperature, then maybe you want to get that kind of alert. Or more specifically, this works for manufacturing facilities where a pump, the vibration is at a certain level and the temperature is reached a certain range, then you want to get the notification about it. So there's a couple of things that we can do here to help us make smart decisions with composite notifications. Now for the meat of our presentation here, and this is where we're going to talk about how Swift Sensors can really help you with facility operations, right? And I wanted just to share first a little bit about the industries that we're in and how people are actually using our sensors. We have a lot of customers in the restaurants and food service space. They're using our temperature sensors to help them manage refrigeration and a lot of the guidelines that go with that. Manufacturing is using us for their CNC presses and rotating machines, specifically on the vibration side. A lot of them are interested in temperature too, but vibration is a critical measurement for them. And building management also uses this for their HVAC systems and door access, specifically our temperature and door contact sensors. We've been getting a lot more attention from school districts recently. So with refrigeration and security, our temperature and door contact sensors are really helping them out to monitor their environments, particularly refrigeration and access. And then data centers as well with the electronics and HVAC systems there, monitoring temperature, the in and out activity, as well as water detection on the floors. So that's just a quick view of how how we're being used in particular industries. And I'd like to just share 5 ways that we can help you improve your operations. And the first is when you're using wireless sensors, we can really help you increase your operational efficiency, right? So if you're the first to know about a problem, so as soon as that sensor sees a problem and it sends you the alert about it, you're going to be really in the know about what's happening 24/7 in your operation, right? So that's really going to help solve a lot of problems quickly. You're not going to have to rely on your staff as much to report these problems to you because it's already handled automatically. So it also helps with your staff from having to go and check manually readings, either it's temperature readings or vibration readings or what have you, that are maybe displaying on an analog display, right? So you can save time as well from these employees by allowing a 24/7 monitoring system to work in your workplace. Along with this also comes an opportunity to maximize utilization and productivity, right? So if you can tell if a machine's moving or in action or if it's down and out of business, you can make decisions to make sure that your machines are being utilized at the right capacity as well as operating effectively, right? So within the industrial space, there's the operational equipment effectiveness, which is just a metric to make sure that your products, your machines and productivity are working and in the ranges that they need to be. I wanted to share real quickly here before I get to number 2, the second benefit, just a quick snapshot of how sensors can help you with some of the utilization and productivity. With the sensors, we're already collecting the raw data, right? So it's not too much of a stretch for us to actually extrapolate that information into some really good intelligence, right? We can tell you if the machine is opening and closing, or if the CNC machine, the cutter is going out of the gate. There's a lot of things that we can do, even temperature management. We can tell you if you're in or out of compliance. So over the long haul, we can combine that raw data to give you some really interesting metrics here to help you be more effective in your running of your operations. Of course, along with this, comes the reduction of operating expenses. If you're solving small problems before they become big ones, not only is that it's less stressful on everybody, but it can also lead to better quality products. It can also limit your machine downtime. It's certainly going to save you some time and money, especially if the problems are happening, after hours or over the weekend. So there's a lot to be said for solving these small problems before they spiral out of control. Of course, we're also going to help you lower the maintenance cost by being able to spot problems earlier. It's going to help you maintain your equipment and have less downtime. That's going to lead to less service calls and hopefully expedite resolution. Also, if you have sensors in place, they can also help you troubleshoot problems to get to solutions quicker as well. Sometimes problems happen, when no one's there, right? So maybe it's over the weekend, over the holiday, or after hours, where it's hard to spot problems, or in some cases, hard to know that there even was a problem, right? So with all the data being recorded and displayed historically, you can see patterns of the machine and even the sort of a personality, if you will, of each individual machine or of your environment that can really paint a clear picture of what's happening. Staying in bounds is definitely something that wireless sensors can help you with because they can help you with the maintenance of your compliancy, right? So if your sensors are reading certain or detecting certain measurements that are outside where they need to be, you can take action, right, to keep those and get those back into the spec that they need to be in, right? And in some cases, particularly if it's with franchises or in some cases food service, there can be some legal penalties if you get outside of those too much, right? So certainly applying wireless sensors can help you maintain that compliance and stay not only within the rules, but also within the best operating capacities that you need to be at. And of course, that leads to a lot of better things, happier customers, better quality products, and a lot of times just a lot less stress. Now, this is the last benefit that I'll talk about, and it's just better insights in general. And that can really help overall performance because a lot of times we hear from our customers that there's issues that they didn't know about that they discovered with the wireless sensor. So I chatted about this a little bit earlier, that you can find things using wireless sensors that you may not have seen previously, right? And sometimes these issues are really hard to spot. Detecting a problem with temperature, even a few degrees, can be hard to spot. Or if again, like if it's after hours, or the vibration on a machine, sometimes it doesn't take but just a slight change in vibration to wear bearings down or cause machines to fail. So better insights can certainly provide actionable intelligence to help you run your business more effectively. Now, if all that sounds good and you're interested in selecting a system, then there's a few tidbits of information that I might share here that might help you with your selection. Here's a few ideas as you go through your criteria of selecting a system. You want to take a look at and be mindful of the battery life on a sensor. The longer the battery life, the less maintenance it'll be for you to go and have to swap the battery. So if you can find one that the battery life of is at least 5 years, that can be extremely helpful. You need a sensor that has the range of at least 50 feet. At least 50 feet, and more preferably 100 feet. The reason I say that is you need more range so you have more coverage. Otherwise, you're going to be spending a lot more money on gateways. And while we're on the subject of gateways, when you're deploying these sensors and gateways throughout your environment, it's really helpful to have a system that's plug and play that allows you just to basically walk in, attach sensors, plug in the gateway, and it just works, right? It automatically starts connecting and transmitting information. Dealing with sensors where you have to manually configure each one of them is really a hassle and something that I would recommend staying away from. You're also going to want to make sure that your system's got a data export function on it so that you can take the data and manipulate any reporting that you want in whatever fashion you'd like. Price is something always that's a consideration. There is a lot of variability in the marketplace for sensors depending upon what you're looking for. And then there's just two other things I'll mention here is that, with the subscription, most all the sensors have a subscription model or alert monitoring service of some sort. And those can be offered a lot of different ways. Some are monthly, some are yearly, some are just a site license. So you want to make sure that the system you go with is one that fits your business need. And we're pretty flexible at that and offer a lot of different options there to make that easy for our customers. And the last thing, the system's got to be able to send you notifications, and at the bare minimum, text and email, right? Phone call is nice, but typically those are automated. But the main thing is text and email so you can get that immediate notification and start making things happen with that information. Last thing I'll mention here is that when you're selecting the system, working with a company that actually has packages can be helpful. That's something that we found, and that's something we've designed our packages so that when you're looking for a solution, we've already got packages that are defined specific to your particular business need, and that can help because we've got the experience and the sensors already that have been vetted and tested in the field for your particular use case. So we've got refrigeration, manufacturing, and security packages designed that can help you with your operations. Last thing I wanted to mention here is we just launched our Series 3 and just wanted to share a few quick improvements that we've made. We've extended our battery life. We're 6 to 8 years on a lithium battery, AAA. We've got super easy, simple one-press activation. So you just set it up, press the buttons, and everybody's talking and working together. We've got a stronger wireless signal, which is BLE5 now. And then we've got status at a glance, which is a really nice addition because our sensors and gateways now have lights that can indicate a variety of different statuses. So you can tell where you're at and what's happening with your equipment. And then we've added some enhanced security as well. At this point, this wraps up our presentation, and we're basically ready to start answering some questions. I did want to share just our cloud software demo. If you're interested in taking our system for a spin, you're certainly welcome to log into our system with these credentials. We'll also make these available after our presentation. So you can log in and just take a look and see if any of our sensors and technology might work for you. I'll go ahead and move off the screen and just provide some contact information here. And at this point, Chris Carson will be coming online to ask a few questions. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciated your time. Great question. The answer to that is the sensors can be installed outdoor, and our sensors are IP67 rated. Our Series 3 sensors are, and that means they're basically dust proof and can be held underwater for 1 foot, 3 meters for, 1 meter, 3 feet for 30 minutes. So they're not quite waterproof, but for washdown in factories and such, not a problem, or basic rainstorms, you'd be fine. There is development that we're working on currently that has a direct output from our sensors that will allow you to control a device, basically an on-off type switch that is not released yet, but it is working, and I have seen it working in the lab, but it's not released yet. So to answer your question, we do not have that working yet, but we do have it close to release. The cloud software is not license free because there are monitoring um, and data storage fees that we incur. So when we send text messages and when we store all the data and the bandwidth, there's some costs associated with that. So we apply a small monitoring and service fee to all of our plans that are economical and I think agreeable to most. We do have an API that would allow you to pull data from our system into yours. We do have, I don't know, probably maybe 10% of our customers pull data from our system into theirs. The API is very easy to use, and even a junior level developer could take our API and have something up in an afternoon. It's very easy to use. Yeah, the battery that we use is a AAA lithium L2 polymer battery, and you'll need to replace those approximately every 6 to 8 years. Yes, I can. In situations where we have a freezer or a walk-in cooler, there is a concept called a Faraday cage, and that means that a metal box, right, with metal walls and metal doors will not allow radio frequencies to escape, right? So for any vendor that has a sensor that needs to pull information from inside of a metal enclosure, such as a freezer or walk-in cooler, etc., you'll need to attach the sensor on the outside and mount the probe out of the sensor on the inside. So we have a special sensor that's designed for these type of applications where the sensor is applied on the outside and the probe is installed on the inside. Most of our customers do this choose to drill a hole through the wall, put the probe through, and then seal it with food grade or industrial sealant. And there are a few other options too, depending upon your particular equipment, where you can also feed the probe through an instrumentation panel, or in some cases through some other outlet that's you can feed a very, very small cable through. So yes, that's how we go about handling freezers and such. The range of the Series 3 sensors is 150 to 300 feet from the gateway. And it's why there's a range there is that it can be impacted by the infrastructure in your environment. There could be elevator shafts or concrete walls or certain things that make it a little more difficult for the radio signals to get around. And that's why there's a little bit of a range there, depending upon what you've got in your environment.